The story begins with Jason, a regular guy talking via Skype with his friend Craig. Craig is about to leave on a trip for a few days and needs Jason to get a package of pills for him. He also offers Jason a share of the profits if he helps him sell the magic powder. At first, Jason is not interested because he wants nothing to do with his friend's dirty business, but his girlfriend asks him to try new things, so after a while he accepts Craig's proposal. Meanwhile, downtown, his father John does his best to keep his transportation business afloat. The business has lost customers over the years and has many employees who depend on him. Despite the difficulties, John does not let this affect the work environment and in fact helps his employees whenever he can. There he meets Daniel, the latest hire, who seems very happy to have gotten the job, as he is trying to get his life together after getting out of prison. That same afternoon, Jason receives Craig's package. Everything seems fine until he decides to open the package to see the pills and discovers that there is a tracking chip inside. The police knock on his door. Within seconds, several DEA agents surround the house, and although the young man tries to flee across the yard, he is caught a few minutes later and arrested for buying drugs with intent to distribute. A few hours later, John is spending time with his new family when he receives a phone call from Sylvie, his ex-wife, informing him that Jason has been arrested. When she arrives at the police station, Sylvia is extremely distressed because she has not been allowed to see her son and they have treated him like an animal. John promises to fix everything and goes inside, but after a few minutes he can't do much, so they have to wait. Later, when they finally get to talk to a detective, he informs them that both Craig and Jason have been arrested and that, given the amount of pills in their possession, they will be tried as adults and could spend up to 10 years in jail. To make matters worse, because Craig was arrested first, he agreed to a deal with the DEA and put all the blame on Jason, raising Jason's potential sentence to 15 years. Because of the overwhelming evidence against him, Jason's only chance to avoid trial is to cooperate as Craig and turn in another trafficker he knows. However, the young man is stubborn and refuses to betray his friends. Even after John forces him to face the reality of the situation, the boy does not give up, so he is transferred to a juvenile prison until sentencing. A few days later, the next morning, John uses all his contacts to get a meeting with the prosecutor in charge of Jason's case. But she repeats what the detective said. Under the new drug law, either Jason informs someone else or he is convicted. 3 days have passed since Jason was incarcerated, and when he is finally able to receive visitors, his father sees the dark side of prison on his son's face. He has been brutally beaten. That same evening, John tries to personally arrest some traffickers in a dangerous part of town, but he is brutally beaten. Fortunately, the police arrive and save his life. Once he is released, the prosecutor asks to see him again and, after realizing how determined he is and that he does not intend to give up, agrees that John will help them catch someone else in exchange for Jason's freedom. Now he just has to find someone knowledgeable about drugs to help him in this mission. Because the trucking company is part of a second chance program that hires ex-convicts to reintegrate into society, John checks the records of his employees and finds Daniel. He meets with Daniel with the intention of offering him a partnership. Daniel is to secure the drug contacts, and John will handle the transportation with his trucks. He also offers Daniel an advance of $110,000. However, Daniel's had had enough of that world. He has spent the last 5 years in prison and now wants to do right by his wife and son. So he rejects the offer and tells John to find someone else. John, not wanting to lose his only chance to save Jason, doubles the upfront payment before Daniel leaves. When Daniel returns home that night, he finds his son hanging out with local drug dealers and realizes that he needs to improve his life and keep his son out of all that trouble. He then decides to accept John's proposal and tells him that he will take him to meet his old partner Malik, who is the largest distributor in the area and the only one who could move enough product to justify using one of John's trucks. During their meeting, Malik tests John to see if he is a cop and, once he passes the test, explains to him how to hide drugs in the trucks. Malik recognizes that John knows his stuff and decides to give him a chance. But Daniel must accompany him because he is reliable. Now that John has a solid lead, he reports to the prosecutor and manages to impress him. She assigns Agent Cooper to assist John in the deal and promises that if they arrest Malik with the drugs, Jason's sentence will be reduced to 6 months. The day of transport arrives. Using one of his trucks, John and Daniel head to the Texas border to pick up the drugs. On the way, Agent Cooper overhears their entire conversation, while Daniel is unaware that he is working with the DEA. When they arrive at the location, they are surprised to see that it is a junkyard and that some heavily armed men greet them. Within minutes, the men hide 10 kilograms of cocaine in 2 bags of cement, and John hides it well among the other construction materials in the truck. Suddenly, a gunfight breaks out. Members of a rival cartel appear and start shooting at everyone they see. The protagonists manage to escape, and although the truck suffers some damage, the product remains intact. That evening, Malik's partner calls him to congratulate his new driver, who has turned out to be braver and more efficient than expected. A few hours later, John returns with the product and is ready to lead Malik into the trap set by Agent Cooper, who is waiting with his team at a nearby location. At the meeting place, Malik tells John that he has impressed his partner with his driving skills and that this partner wants to meet him. When Cooper learns this, he calls off the trap and lets Malik go with the drugs. The next day, John is furious and confronts the prosecutor about why she let Malik escape with the drugs. She explains to him that they need to catch Malik's accomplice as well, so he must continue with the plan. Because of John's strange behavior, Daniel becomes suspicious and follows him to the meeting, discovering the truth. Daniel warns him that the cartel will come after them and that the best thing to do is to take his family and escape. When John returns home, he finds Malik with all his henchmen. They have come to take him to meet Malik's supplier, a man they call El Topo. El Topo tells John that he is now part of the organization and that since they have not yet been able to find Daniel, John must make the next trip alone. But he need not worry, because El Topo will be nearby keeping watch. That same day, John goes to the prosecutor's office because he fears for his son's life, but she has already taken action and moved Jason to an isolated cell to protect him. John mentions El Topo's name and both she and Cooper are shocked. Cooper says that this man is the head of the largest Mexican cartel, and if he wants trucks, it is likely that he is not transporting drugs but money. Hundreds of millions of dollars that could be a major blow to the drug trade if they could catch him. Knowing what he is dealing with, John tells them that if they help him, they must release Jason immediately and remove any marks on his record. Later, Cooper warns him that the cartels do not keep their mules long, that they always end up dead once the job is done, and that once he enters Mexico, Cooper will not be able to help him because of jurisdictional issues. When delivery day arrives, John does not trust the DEA to protect them and the situation escalates. So halfway there, he switches trucks and abandons the one being followed. He also manages to find Daniel and they team up to save their families from Malik of the cartel. A few hours later, John arrives at the point and they load the money into the truck. They then order him to drive to the border and await instructions. Following the plan, and because Daniel knows the habits of Malik's men, particularly when they go out to eat, he attacks those left behind and manages to kill them one by one. At this point, he confronts Malik, kills him, but is wounded. Immediately afterwards, he takes Malik's phone and sends John El Topo's number. Back on the street, the cartel has learned that John is an informant and tries to stop the truck to get the money back. As he flees the cartel's cars, John calls Cooper and gives him El Topo's number so he can track him down, since he must be nearby keeping an eye on the truck. Using a shotgun, John manages to hold off the cartel cars for a few minutes, but in the exchange of shots, he is wounded in the leg. Using the number, Cooper tracks down El Topo and places him under arrest. However, more cartel cars continue to arrive on the highway, and John's life is increasingly in danger. With half of the truck's tires destroyed by the gunfire, John can no longer control the vehicle, which overturns in the middle of the highway. Just then, DA agents finally arrive and scare off the cartel members, saving John from certain death. With Malik dead and El Topo behind bars, the DA wastes no time and takes credit for the operation, announcing his candidacy for the Senate. The next day, Daniel is summoned to make his statement, but Cooper tells him that will not be necessary. The real reason for his summons is to receive his share of the reward for the capture of El Topo. That afternoon, Jason is released and John can finally be reunited with his son and given a second chance at life.